2, 3, 4.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
You are listening to Living in Recovery Radio, and I'm your host for today. My name is Julie, and I am a person in recovery. Living in Recovery is a peer-driven, peer-led community support program located in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, in the Berkshire Mountains, that is here to assist anyone in recovery, at any stage of recovery, those who are seeking recovery, and those who've been impacted by substance use of others. And part of what we do at Living in Recovery is that we look to educate others, to inspire others to seek their own path of recovery or to seek support of others in recovery. And so that's a big part of what we do here with our Living in Recovery radio podcast. On today's show, you're going to hear an interview that I did with a woman named Heather. And Heather is a woman in her 40s who happens to be homeless currently and has, per her report, has a history of mental health issues as well as substance abuse issues. And I went over to the shelter that's in our local area and asked if she would speak to this because it is important. Look, we all have our challenges and our struggles. And very often what we've noticed here at Living in Recovery is that, if you tell someone that you're in recovery, some people might be very happy for you and others might still have a judgment about substance use or substance abuse. And so it's important to us to rid the stigma from this disease that people have, and certainly from other things that impact people, such as mental health diagnoses, homelessness, and all of that. And very often, we just see these images that media gives us who are just sitting around and not caring about anything, or who are seemingly in the way, just hanging out and don't really care about what they're doing with their lives. And what we often forget is that people who are still in the throes of addiction are human beings. They're our daughters, our sons, our brothers, our sisters, our mothers, our fathers, our uncles, our teachers, our doctors, our custodians, our police officers, our fire department personnel. They are everyone. And that no one as a small child says, hey, I think I want to grow up and have substance use disorder and become homeless and have difficulty getting my life back on track, right? So in today's episode, I wanted to give you a glimpse into Heather as a human being, as a person who has struggled, as a person who has trauma in her background, as a woman who has a mental health diagnosis, has a substance abuse diagnosis, who grew up in a family with mental health disorders, who grew up with trauma, who grew up in and out of homelessness. And this is a big part of what we see too often is intergenerational poverty, homelessness, mental health issues, and substance use issues. This is not a matter of people being weak or not having willpower or not having a desire to live a decent life. And, Heather is very honest in this interview that I'm going to share with you. And I found it particularly challenging for me because I do know Heather. I used to be the site manager of this particular shelter prior to taking the position here at Living in Recovery. And it's a very different thing to interview someone who is in the throes of not just their addiction, but of trauma, right? Because not having your own place, living in a place where there's 50 other people living under the same roof, being cold, not having your own things with you, that is also trauma-inducing. And so one of the things that I found very interesting in this, because someone going through that is in the midst of everything going on, it's very difficult sometimes to reach into them, and because they need to have these walls up to protect themselves, to protect their psyche, to protect their emotional selves. How there is also a person, as you'll hear in the interview, who went through 2 very significant losses in the last year and a half, the most recent of which was 4 months ago. 3 months ago. So I'm going to ask you to listen in and listen. Listen with your heart. Listen with the understanding that this is a human being who is suffering, who is struggling. This is a human being who had dreams for her life. This is a human being who hasn't completely let go of all dreaming. But in order, again, to stay safe, she has to put that on hold. Okay, so I am sitting here now with Heather, and we are located at a local shelter in Pittsfield, Mass. And Heather has graciously agreed to allow me to interview her just about her life and her use, and also how it's impacted her and how she's been impacted by people that she's loved that use. So, Heather, first of all, thank you so much for agreeing to be interviewed for the show.
No problem.
Yeah, it's really, I wanted to do this because it's important for us to put a human face on substance use disorder, as well as people who are unhomed. And a lot of times, as I'm sure you've been victim to, people can be very judgmental about the places that we find ourselves in.
Yes.
So let's, if it's okay with you, I'd like to just move the clock back a little bit so I met you a couple of years ago when you came into the shelter, right? And, but let's go back before that. And can you talk to me just a little bit about prior to coming to the shelter, what did your day-to-day life look like, Heather?
I was working. Mm-hmm. I was going to Pathways. Mm-hmm.
And what is Pathways, just for the listeners?
Berkshire Pathways is a clubhouse for people who have mental illness. Mm-hmm. And they help you get jobs.
So they helped you to get the job that you had?
Yeah.
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit about that, about your job that you had?
Well, I still have it. It's at McDonald's.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
They helped me get that. First, it was a TE, which is, I forgot what that stands for.
Like a temporary employee?
Yeah.
Okay.
For 6 to 9 months.
Okay.
And then they offered me a supportive role. Which is SE, supportive employment. So they come and check on me once in a while.
Okay. So how did you mentioned that Berkshire Pathways is a place for people with mental health issues.
Yeah.
And are you willing to talk a little bit about that?
My mom had started going there before I did. Okay. So she introduced me to it.
Okay. So mom was involved, so you found out about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you willing to share with us and the listeners what your mental health condition is?
I have depression. I have PTSD.
Okay. PTSD. Okay. So you went there for that. You were working.
Yep.
And you were living somewhere.
I was at first living with my mom, but she's in a elderly housing. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't live with her. Then I moved in with a couple of friends. Okay. They kicked me out. And then I moved in with another friend, and she kicked me out. So I ended up at the shelter.
Okay. Any ideas on why or insight on why you were asked to leave those places, or?
Well, the first couple, they wanted to have a kid. So they kicked me out.
So they needed the space to have the kid. Okay.
And the second one, she kicked me out because of her boyfriend who didn't like me.
Okay. So I remember when you first came in, and at the time I was the site manager at the shelter. And I remember when you first came in, and you were pretty quiet and pretty much stayed to yourself and all of that. And what was that like for you first? Was it your first time coming into a shelter?
Yeah, it was.
What was that like for you?
It was very scary.
Mm-hmm. What seemed like, if you could go back to the day you came in, right, and try to recollect, what did you see? What were you feeling? What were you thinking?
I was nervous. I'm like, I don't need to be here. And but then I made friends, which I still have today.
I mean, that's good, right? But probably first coming in to a shelter, it can be kind of scary, especially because this is, kind of like this shelter is set up since COVID as an emergency shelter. So a lot of people stuffed into stuffed into one space.
And right now I'm sleeping in the gym.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So one thing that stands out to me is I remember Christmas. And I remember you had come in just before that, and you couldn't go see your mom, and you were so sad and so upset about that. And I remember just feeling just so badly that you were in this situation, and I remember you just feeling like I think you had started making friends by then, but you were still kind of keeping to yourself a little bit. So one thing I've noticed, and I could be wrong. I can only talk about what I've noticed since I've known you, right?
Yeah.
So one thing that I noticed is over time of you being here, it did seem to me like the drinking was kind of introduced, right?
Yeah.
When you were here for a bit, and then that drinking started to increase.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Can you talk to me about that?
Well, I started drinking when I was 13. But I stopped for a little while and did it only on occasions. And then when I got to the shelter, I'm like, I need a drink. I need to drink before I come in.
Right.
So I can go to sleep. And
So it helped you to kind of like not be as nervous or whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
And I know that, and we'll get to it shortly, but I know that there were two very close people to you that you've lost since you've been here. And, again, when I roll time back, just looking through my small window, it's not like I spent 24/7 with you.
Right.
But I remember when we lost one of our people here at the shelter to an overdose. And it was kind of after that I saw your drinking really get worse, or more often, or more, maybe the amount was more. I don't really know.
The amount was more.
So can you talk to me about that loss? Are you able to?
With her, it was hard because she was a close friend of mine, and I knew her father, which I still talk to him at the bus station.
Oh, nice.
Because that's where he works. And it was very hard because she was close. And I still have her number in my phone.
You do?
I do.
Yeah. And she was probably close to your age, right? About the same, maybe a couple years younger.
Yeah.
But close to your age. And that, unfortunately, is kind of the sad nature, right, of addiction.
Right. Yeah.
And I know that not long ago you lost someone else really close to you.
Yes.
From this disease.
It was the love of my life.
Yeah.
I so miss him so much. I want to be with him, but...
Right. And for our listeners, I know the story and I knew the person, but for our listeners, can you say a little bit about, to the best of your understanding, what happened?
He froze to death outside because he didn't want to come into the shelter. And I got a phone call from the doctor because I was his emergency contact.
Okay.
So the doctors called me, and they're like, we couldn't save him. We tried to resuscitate him multiple times, and they just couldn't.
Yeah. And, I mean, it certainly wasn't the first time he slept outside or
No,
you either, right?
right.
Like, you guys had spent...
The whole summer outside. And he spent last year outside, and he was fine. This year was just, he had drank too much, and with the weather and...
Right. Well, because that alcohol changes our body temperature, too, so the cold can impact us faster, right? And so since that time, talk to me about your drinking since then.
My drinking's been horrible since then. I still go to work, but after work I get drinks. And then when I'm not working, I get drinks.
Do you ever think that maybe with losing 2 people to this disease that maybe you could be at risk too?
Yeah.
And
plus I smoke and...
But what are your... I guess I'm curious, what are your thoughts about that?
I'm not ready to quit drinking yet.
Yeah. So do you think you could die from it?
I probably could if I was outside. If I had got kicked out of the shelter, I could probably die. That's why I'm trying not to get kicked out.
So it does matter to
Yes.
you. I was curious about that.
It does matter.
Yeah, okay. So you're not saying like, I don't really care if I die.
No.
You're just saying, listen, I got to use this to cope right now.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it. What do you imagine for your life? Like when, so right now you're in the shelter temporarily. My guess is that you're not anticipating you'll spend the rest of your life here.
I want to get an apartment. Me and a couple of my other friends want to get an apartment together. So we're all looking for someplace.
Right.
Because we do not want to go to the new shelter.
Okay. Because...
we just don't want to be in the shelter anymore.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Who wants to?
I mean, I've been here for 2 years?
Right. A little over. Right?
Yeah.
2 and plus.
Yeah.
Because you came like around Thanksgiving or right after Thanksgiving, right?
I came around August.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh. You must have been really quiet then. So like 2.5 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like we just want to get out of here. We don't want to go to a new shelter or nothing. So we're all planning on probably getting either an apartment or a house with multiple bedrooms.
Okay. So one of the things you said a few moments ago was, I'm not ready to give it up yet.
Not yet.
Yeah. So I'm just curious about that because you said not yet. So to me, when someone says not yet, it means, you know what, at some point I think I want to put it away.
Yeah, eventually I will.
And why do you want to put it away at some point?
I'm just getting sick of drinking, but I'm just not ready yet. I mean, it's been 4 months since he passed away.
Right. So do you think that when you say you get sick of it, do you think that alcohol blocks things for,
Yeah.
How has it impacted your life?
Half the time I don't remember what I did the day before. I come in so drunk I don't remember. I have hard times taking showers when I'm drunk.
Because I was thinking that actually when you said, well, as long as I'm not outside, I'll be okay. But I was thinking about, I actually know a couple of people who were intoxicated, fell in showers, hit their head, and bled out. You know what I mean? So it's I'm not saying it to scare you. I'm just saying
that's why I don't want to take a shower when I'm drunk.
Yeah. Does it impact your work at all, you think?
No.
Okay.
Because I drink after work.
Okay.
And I'm fine when I go into work.
Yeah. So you don't have hangovers or anything?
No, I don't have hangovers or anything.
Lucky you, honey. I used to have them and have to go to work. It was horrible, I tell you. Maybe that's why I quit so early on in my life.
Right.
As
of right now, I don't have hangovers.
Okay. Now, where you work, do you work at all the different stations, or?
I just do the grill and the sandwiches.
Okay. Because I was thinking about, although the grills aren't what they used to be.
Yeah.
Because back in my day, and I worked in
we
restaurants.
just have to push 2 buttons.
Yeah, when you would see, you might change your mind. Because when I used to go to work hungover in the hot grill, and the sweat and the heat, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
It was terrible. What are your dreams that you have for your life, Heather?
My dreams are, I want to get an apartment, save money, go on vacation. I would love to go on a cruise.
Where would you go on vacation to?
Florida, any place warm.
Yeah. Let's go right now, sister.
Right. But I would love to go on a cruise.
What appeals to you about that?
The ocean and being out in the ocean and
kind of just exploring.
Yeah.
Feeling free.
Exploring other countries.
Okay. Nice. Any other, like when you were little, what was your dream for yourself?
When I was little, I wanted to be a nurse. But I can't stand blood or...
That kind of gets in the way a little bit.
It does.
Yeah.
So that dream's changed.
Yeah. Okay. So if you, right now, would you have imagined when you were little you being in this situation?
No. Because I guess when I was little, we used to be in shelters and... I don't remember any of it, but...
Right, okay.
My mom said I was in... We stayed at the Lewison House when it was in the emergency shelter.
Which is in North Adams, right?
North Adams, yeah.
Okay.
But it's not in the emergency shelter anymore.
Right.
But when I was little, it was.
So they took families then, too, if you were little, obviously.
Yeah, they took families.
And also back then, honestly, the shelters were a little different.
Yeah.
People couldn't come in if they were drinking. And
right.
Things like that.
Yeah.
So it was a little different environment then.
But I was like 3, 4. Because I remember we were living on Washington Ave in North Adams. And we had a fire. A little kid started it with a lighter.
Oh.
So we had to vacate the property. So I think that's when we went into the shelter. But.
And if you could have a conversation now with, say, 16, 17, 18-year-old Heather, what would you say to her?
Don't start drinking. Or smoking.
Yeah. When you say smoking, what do you mean? You mean cigarettes or other things?
Smoking. Well, I smoke cigarettes and pot.
Okay.
So, just smoking.
Okay, just across the board.
Across the board. Because I've never done any of the other drugs.
Right. Okay.
Never touched those and never played any on it.
Right. Well, I mean, your other stuff seems to be helping right now.
Right.
Even though it also is hurting, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean...
But...
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Right. Anything else you'd say to her?
Try to stay positive. Don't become homeless. Keep
That's
your head
kind of
up.
a hard thing.
Yeah.
Don't become homeless,
Yeah.
right? Because, I mean,
it happens.
Right. We can do everything that we can do within our power, but like you said, when you were little, you had the fire, right?
Right.
And the truth is for many of us, myself included, we're one paycheck away from homelessness.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, I could be in here, too. It might not be due to drinking, but it could be due to any other economic hardship, or anything like that, And what about the people that do... Maybe they don't mean to be judgmental, but maybe they don't understand homelessness, or maybe they don't understand substance abuse issues. what might you say to them? Those who like look at you like, oh God, you know, like if you were to be able to say it in a way to help them to get it.
Like, try being in my shoes.
Yeah. What do you want people to know about you?
I'm very fun-loving, social, once I get to know people. I like to play on my phone, read, go on Facebook.
And you are fun-loving. You know, you, in spite of, you know, the challenges you're going through and the drinking and all of that, like, just about every time I've ever seen you, you smile, you laugh, you know what I mean? You do try in spite of all of the obstacles.
Yep.
You do try to keep a positive attitude.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, you've just had an incredibly significant loss.
Yeah.
You know, and even though, sometimes when I see you, you may feel emotional about it, but you'll be playful with me still, or whoever else is around you. I think that is, you know, to me, those are really important traits to be able, right, to get through the challenges. Because sometimes we get so bogged down, you know, and then if we have mental health stuff going on, and then poverty and homelessness and, you know, substance use issues, some people just give up.
Yeah. I was raped by my older brother when I was younger.
Yeah. That's messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that the PTSD stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you see him at all now?
Once in a while, I'll see him.
What's that like for you?
It's hard.
Did you ever punch him in the face?
I punched him so he blacked out.
Sorry, I shouldn't be saying good on the show, but anyway. So you at least were able to, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, not that we here at Living in Recovery Radio are not promoting violence. We're just having a conversation, right? Because you were violent.
Yeah.
You were violent.
I was violent.
You know? And being violated, you know, is going to make us angry. It's going to, you know, say, like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah.
You know?
He not only did it to me, he did it to my two younger brothers.
So it seems like he has his own sickness, too, though, right?
Yeah.
Has he gotten any help, do you know?
I don't know if he did or not.
Okay. And where's Mom in all this? Did Mom know?
I told her when I got older.
Okay. How come you didn't tell her when you were little?
I don't know.
Were you scared?
Yeah,
Did you
scared.
not want him to get in trouble? Did you not want to upset her?
Didn't want to upset her. Scared. Didn't want him to get in trouble.
Right.
But she does know.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yet,
I'm still here.
and you're still here with your Mountain Dew.
With my Mountain Dew.
And what about that? What about women or men who've had to go through that? What might you say to them?
Stay positive. Just don't let it hurt you.
How do you do that, though? How do you not let something like that hurt you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just stay positive. Don't let it bring you down in life.
Right. Have you like when you were at Berkshire Pathways, or like was there ever a therapist or counselor you worked with around that helped you to kind of get a different perspective on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I was little, I went to counseling, and counseling never worked for me.
No. How come? What didn't work for you?
The therapist, I've had multiple ones, and they just didn't work out, so I just quit going to counseling.
Do you think it was ever, like, maybe because it was hard to talk about this shit?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. And that maybe, like, at a point when you decide, like, okay, right, I need to have a space.
Yeah, maybe I'll start going to counseling again eventually, but... Right now, I just don't need it.
Or want it, maybe.
No, I want it. Yeah,
I mean,
maybe.
you kind of did lose two really important people in your life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it might be helpful.
It might be.
I get it if you don't want it, but the near thing, it's questionable.
Maybe I just don't want it right now.
Well, sometimes, I find that there are times, different times in my life even, where, and I'm sure our listeners can relate, where we may know that, like, okay, this is something to address at some point, but right now I just need to do whatever I need to do just to hold my shit together, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, what else do you want to say?
I think that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
So when the day comes, when you do decide that the not yet is over,
I will go to counseling.
you're going to go to counseling. Yeah. Okay. And then when you get to that place where you feel like, yeah, I've done it, I've quit drinking, I'm going to counseling, will you come back on the show and share your progress with people?
I will.
All right. I'm going to hold you to that.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Heather, thank you so much for your time and for talking to me today. You are listening to Living in Recovery Radio, a podcast produced by Living in Recovery, a peer-driven, peer-led recovery support program located in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. And that was Heather G. that we were talking to about her own challenges in substance use disorder, trauma, and homelessness. So stay tuned next week when we're going to have a show that is highlighting some of the members here at our center. And coming up in the next few weeks, we have people coming in to talk about yoga for recovery and different ways to transform your life. We have someone from Creative Action Unlimited coming in. All sorts of things that we will continue to explore together as we walk through multiple pathways in our journeys to and of recovery. Thanks so much for listening, guys. See you next time.